Oh, sorry, Sabo.
It's a hair thing. We don't need
That's
to.
called being cut off.
This meeting is now called to order. Susan, will you take roll?
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the June 7th, 2017 Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority monthly meeting. Roll call: Sabo Lakaj-Barra.
Here.
Bob Gunzel.
Here.
Lee Clough. Howard Lazarus.
Here.
Joe Lowenstein. Gary McKinnon.
Present.
Al McWilliams.
Here.
John Mahoney.
Here.
Rishi Narayan.
Also present.
Keith Orr.
Here.
John Split.
Here.
Bill Weiss.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Awesome, thank you. First up, audience participation. Is there any audience that would like to participate? No? Okay. Anybody else? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to reports from city boards and commissions. Ray Detter, Downtown Area Citizens Advisory Council, who I'm sure will tell us about the raging party that's going to be going on tonight.
Well, you know, I mean, I was saving that for the end, but I'll say right now, those of you who are invited to the party today, begins at 6:30. You don't have to bring anything unless you want it. But as you all know, I mean, there are a large number of people there, and they sometimes stay very late, so come at any particular point. You can bring children, and of course, you can also bring your partners, whoever they may be, and anybody else that you think really deserves to be there, because this is a downtown party. So I hope you can come. Last night, you didn't count this time, did you?
I'll add it back on.
Okay. Last night's meeting of the Citizens Advisory Council was devoted to a discussion with Ron Mucha, local representative of Morningside Development, on current plans for 607 units of residential development on the long vacant 6-acre site at Broadway and Maiden Lane. The 12 participants who were there last night included residential representatives at Broadway Hill, other near downtown neighborhoods, and members of the Downtown Area Citizens Advisory Council. The project is scheduled before Planning Commission in just 2 weeks, a little bit less than 2 weeks now. All of us recognize the importance of appropriate development on this site, where 6 major roads converge to and from downtown, the hospitals, North Main, and nearby residential neighborhoods. What goes on this site, like what goes on the DTE sites, North Main sites, the future location of the railroad depot, and U of M expansion should be a concern for all of us, and is very much concerned for the downtown. Ron Mucha did an excellent job outlining many of the benefits of the project, cleaning up the contaminated groundwater currently flowing into the Huron River, as well as contamination on the site, providing 3-stage construction of those 607 of both rental and condo units, with a 99-year commitment on whatever affordability is included. That hasn't been fixed yet, however. An agreement to put limitations on the height of the building, currently 7 stories, on the tallest rental unit, 5 on the others. Most of the permanent parking is enclosed within the first rental unit building, because this will be a project which will be staged. Also, possible solar panels on top of the enclosed parking area. Ron is committed to that, enough to provide hot water for the entire building. A pedestrian easement will be provided also along Traver Creek. Those present last night disagreed about elements of design, materials, height, parking, auto traffic, and yes, even whether or not to include a planned swimming pool on the site. These will be discussed further, first in the Planning Commission meetings that start in 2 weeks, and then the public hearings of City Council. Since the Strathmore project was approved on the site, that was 14 years ago, we approved something on this site that collapsed because of financial reasons. A lot has happened. We have a new Broadway bridges. Those are all new since then. The Argo Cascades has been installed, the new Kellogg Eye Center, which is 12 stories high, but 150 feet high in 12 stories. They've been put on the site, and there's also a new 6-story parking structure built by the University of Michigan on Wall Street, between Wall Street and Maiden Lane. And many of us believe that it is time that we commit to a plan for the major part of this important lower town area. We haven't decided what we're going to support, if we're going to support at all, but nonetheless, these are some of the issues that are involved on this site. And again, I hope that you're all coming to the party starting at 6:30 tonight.
Oh, Ray, you got 30 seconds left. All right, thanks, Ray. Next up, DDA member communications. Are there any members that would like to communicate? Executive Director Communications, Susan.
Sure. A few things. One, some of us know, not everybody does, that earlier this year the DDA board approved a new mobile payment app for parking. It launched Thursday last week. You can download for free the app from either Google Play or the App Store. What's great about it is you can pay for parking from your car. You don't have to go over to the machine. We've been getting really good feedback on it, but this is my request to all of you. If you hear concerns or problems, definitely relay them to us. Even before it launched, just from the decals on the space markers, we had over 1,000 users, so I think it's fairly quickly getting embraced.
What's it called?
It's called ePark.
ePark Ann Arbor in the App Store.
This is good.
1001.
All right, thank you. Second is to put on your calendars our Fifth in Detroit project. Design is being presented to the public. There's a couple open houses on June 14th. We're very graciously being hosted by the Carytown Concert House. There'll be 2 open houses that day, one at 8:30 to 10, another 7 to 8:30. It'll be an open house format so that there'll be a presentation at the beginning, a 30-minute presentation, followed by questions and answers, and then time available for individuals to meet with design team members, members of our staff, and give feedback. It's being hosted by both the city and the DDA, and we welcome people to join us there. And then the last thing is to put on your calendar for the 16th, the now annual Tech Track. Spark is encouraging people to poke their noses into the multitude of tech companies operating in downtown and around the community. This year there are 70 participating companies, and it is a cool opportunity to walk in the doors of places like Mamasoft or Barracuda, Menlo, and talk with people who are there and what they're up to and the innovations that are taking shape here, as I said, both in downtown and around the community. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Susan. Next up, approval of minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the May minutes?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Support. Thank you. Are there any issues, questions, corrections with the May DDA meeting minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Minutes approved. Next up, subcommittee reports, Capital Improvements Committee, Dr. J. Moab.
Sheet.
Doctor of Architecture.
On page 14 of your packet, you will see a resolution to adopt anticipated future streetscape project schedule that I would like to move.
Can I get a second? Support.
As you can see, it outlines the proposed projects and the proposed schedule and the proposed anticipated actions for these projects. These are the projects that we started with looking at in November at the board retreat, and we went through that step-by-step process of looking at both projects and the budgeting and the timing and so forth. These have gone through both the Capital Improvements Committee and through the Finance Committee. One important element to make note of is the fact that looking at bonding to be able to combine a couple of the projects together into a bigger project and be able to do that as one project rather than splitting it up over time, which is a more effective approach to it, I think. And also, it sort of allows us to focus on that west side of downtown, sort of transform that area, because through that process that it appears to have the most potential for new development and have an impact on the downtown. The other aspect, of course, of bonding is that it gives us the opportunity to free up dollars as we go down the road for other projects, so it allows some space in the budget for other things. Part of the reason we want to get this approved is so that we can integrate it in our 10-year plan and be able to allow staff to be able to start doing their preliminary planning for these projects. So that's sort of the background of it. I think many people here have been at committee meetings where it's been discussed. Any particular questions, concerns? We can also obviously ask staff to come up if there are any concerns folks have.
Question here. I guess two thoughts. One, shortly after our retreat last year, we talked about the possibility of coordinating our streetscape improvements with the city and their utility projects. And the comment was made, I think Howard said, you know, the streetscape part is such a small percentage of the cost when you look at utilities, and it seems a shame to be doing that without proper coordination if there's utilities below that need to be replaced as they're aging. We're spending a lot of money to put nice pavement on top of it. I don't know that coordination's ever happened. And so the timing aspect of it leads me to want to find out, does this work well with the city's plans? And
This seems like a good opportunity to ask Amber to.
so that was my first part of my question. And the second part of the question is, we've got a retreat in 2 weeks to talk about the parking garage potentially or other parking needs. And if we're going to commit to this level of bonding and financing, is this happening prematurely, or should we have that outcome of that retreat first so we understand what, if any, bonding needs we might have on that front?
So I'll answer the first question first, and then I can provide a little bit of input on the second question. Maybe John can provide more input. Each of the projects that you see in blue on your map that we've talked about bonding, those all have opportunities to upsize the water mains. And so we've anticipated that in the anticipated budget, and that has been discussed with city staff, and it is preliminarily in their CIP. So they're aware of it, they're very excited that we can take on that work. They've also talked about the need to do some work on sewer mains, sewer utilities, and this timeline correlates well with their needs. So we have had those conversations, and then as we continue to refine the schedule and provide that to city staff, it helps them to better prepare for those changes as well. And then in terms of preparing for the retreat, I believe the thinking was refining this provides more certainty in what the capital improvements committee is doing, and then provides a better input into that discussion. But maybe John has more.
Yeah, you know, obviously this is just a plan. We haven't committed to any of these projects, you know, yet. At this point, it's really trying to lay out a schedule and a budget for those potential projects. So obviously things can change. The challenge, of course, if we were to consider moving forward with a parking structure, is that that's going to take a lot of time. It's not as simple as at the retreat, just saying, you know, yay, let's do it. It's going to take, you know, it's going to be a big hurdle to get through it from a time point of view. So we want to try to at least get something lined up, again, as part of our 10-year plan, as we're moving forward and we're coordinating these projects. And obviously, as you know, the next design project is Huron. So we don't really want to stop everything as we, you know, consider the other possibilities moving forward. That's my perspective on it, and I think that, you know, when it's gone through these other two committees, I think folks basically are on board with moving this forward as a plan.
Well, I think bonding these projects, correct me if I'm wrong, also helps with the DDA's cash position on a go-forward basis. I know you're not building a parking structure with cash, but at least you have something to work with or something to start that.
Oh, one thing I should mention too is that Tom Crawford has been involved in the conversations about the bonding piece. So I think at least that aspect of it has been vetted through Tom.
Any further questions or discussion points? Okay. All right. Let's vote on the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution to adopt anticipated future streetscape project schedule as highlighted below, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Resolution passes. Back to you, John, I believe.
Thank you. Let's see, Southview. on the list here. I think as many of you know, there was a big surprise out there. We had a water main that was in very poor condition. So that has created some delays in the project, but there's been a lot of team effort amongst all involved to try to get a new design worked up and to get that work started, involving closing the 1200 block for vehicular traffic starting tomorrow. So there may be some people who are not very happy about it, but there's not much choice. At this point, there'll be some delay, but I think there's plans afoot to try to catch up with the schedule. And my assumption, Amber, would be that things like the art fair and so forth are still being accounted for. And why don't you give us sort of any 2 cents worth you might have about this?
Sure. So since this was unexpected, the construction plans keep being refined pretty quickly. So we have an update even from our tour yesterday. So I think it's actually all good news, hopefully from here on out. The design is finalized, the state permit has been approved, and the city has gotten approval to spend the dollars on the new water main. So the construction crew is able to respond quite quickly. Today they're saw cutting to remove the asphalt and prepare to install the water main. Tomorrow you'll see the 1200 block shut down and they'll begin installing the water main. They expect that to last for about 2 weeks. Then they can test the water main. Once it passes the testing, they can then start to switch everything over to the new water main. That is the point where they have to shut down some service. But I think that the city staff have done a really good job thinking through impact. So they have installed some additional valves so that they can shut down the water main in smaller segments, which means that each building should only have to be shut down one time, which is good. And they're also planning for businesses to do the shutdowns in the very early morning, starting at like 4 a.m., so that they should be up and running by around 11. And then for the residents in the area at U Towers, they can start that shutdown around 11 a.m. so that they can get ready in the morning. So I think they're taking a really thoughtful approach. They're moving as quickly as they can. And the contractor will take advantage of that full shutdown of that block, and they'll actually have 2 crews out there. So they'll be working on both sides of the block, and then they'll also be working on the 1300 block. And they think doing that will allow them to have the surface up and smooth as promised for art fair. And then hopefully everything but the landscaping is done before student move-ins.
What was the one thing that changed since the tour yesterday?
What changed is that we have a better sense of how it's all progressing and that they firmly have started today. And then Liz and the contractor on site have gone out and talked to all of the businesses.
Well, kudos to staff, city staff, contractors. It's a big surprise. A lot of shifting has to happen in a hurry, so good work to keep that thing moving. Huron Street. So DDA and city staff have met to align goals for the project moving forward with an emphasis on pedestrians and pedestrian safety and so forth. Next steps include a pop-up workshop, trying to get feedback from folks out there on the street, and also putting together a stakeholders list. I would encourage folks that if anyone knows of entities along Huron Street that might want to be informed or participate in providing feedback, please get those folks to connected with Amber, and we'll move forward with it. Fifth in Detroit, the committee saw the final sort of concept design at our last meeting, and it is now, as Susan alluded to, going to be shown to the public to get feedback from the public, with the idea of that next month the Capital Improvements Committee would hopefully finalize the design and bring it forward to our next board meeting. think all in all, things have moved along pretty smoothly. I'm looking over to see if there have been any new surprises.
No new surprises.
That's good. So far, so good. And I think that's all I got. Unless
Next
anyone
meeting.
has any questions?
When is your next meeting, Chad?
My next meeting. Our next meeting is June 21st at 11 a.m.
Great, thanks, John. Switch it over to the Operations Committee. John and Keith, why don't you do what you do?
All right, let's start off by, I'd like to move the resolution to approve a contract for parking structure repairs with Ram Construction. It's on page 16.
Do we have a support? John, go ahead.
Again, we put out these proposals for parking structure repairs every season. And this year we have a scheduled amount of work to do. This is establishing a project of $1,167 and some odd cents. RAM has done work for us in the past. We've used some other construction companies as well, but RAM was a low bidder on this, and they're very qualified to do it.
Great. Is there any questions for Operations Committee on this? Great. All those in favor of the resolution to approve a contract for parking structure repairs with Ram Construction Services of Michigan, Inc., and establish a project budget of $1,176,366, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Resolution passes. Back to you, John.
All right, next is the parking and transportation report for May. It's in your packet on page 18. Again, I am confident everybody's read this over in advance, and if there are any questions, I or Joe probably can answer them, or Jada. Oh. Seeing none, General Operations, Republic Parking staff presented us with a report about how they've improved the process to ensure emergency phones in our facilities are operational. They went into quite a bit of detail. There are emergency phones in all of the structures, and they just went through and made sure that everything is working well. It involves making sure that it's connecting to 911 properly. They have a new system in place, and they're very pleased with it. Also, they presented us with a lot of parking system data about how many square feet we have, a lot of other information that was pretty impressive. I think that we're going to delve more deeply into some of those numbers, but their staff put together a comprehensive report about what goes on in the structures, operationally, how much they have to take care of, how much snow is shoveled, and all those sorts of things. Any questions about that? Fort William project, the stair elevator tower. I missed the meeting this morning. Is there any updates, Susan, that you have?
Yeah, just good news. Actually, while we're meeting, the punch list walkthrough is going on, and top to bottom, engineers are working with the construction team, figuring out the last details. It is anticipated we'll get back with Polly a lot by the end of the month, because the last of the work that needs to be done that would need that should be out of the way. It's looking pretty good. The sign that's supposed to come in on William Street is at last on its way. That should be here, I think, the 24th, 25th, something like that. So we may be holding, fingers crossed, our last construction meeting the following week. So we're essentially done.
So my theory that everything gets done by art fair probably will hold here.
We just didn't say which art fair.
Thank you. ePark installations and ePark smartphone app. Susan touched on the app. The ePark system is now fully installed and up and running.
Joe, is it safe to delete my old app yet, or should I hold on to that bad boy?
It is safe to delete.
Okay, all right, just checking. I'd like to collect apps.
And all of the e-park machines have been installed, right?
Correct, yes.
Which knocks it over to me, I guess. The circulator study, feasibility study, just as a quick review, this refers to the plan to create a circulator throughout all of the various areas of downtown Ann Arbor. We have had one in the past, but it has been some years. So we hired Nelson Nygaard to do a feasibility study, which will include looking at how much it would cost, what the different possibilities of funding are, what the possible routes are. They've been working with the RIDE, with WATS. They've also been gathering a lot of data. The fact that it's the main thing that's happened thus far is the gathering of data, doing some employment density, residential density studies, and making nifty maps from those things. A memo to the DDA with the updates will, this was one of the deliverables, will indeed be coming sometime later this month. There was a little bit of a setback, as I recall, on the timeline, but it looks like everything's being caught up on the timeline. That's all I have on that. And the next Ops Committee meeting is Wednesday, June 28th at 11 a.m.
Great. Thank you, Keith. Thanks, John. Finance Committee, I'm going to be subbing in for Marie, but my good friend Al McWilliams is going to move a resolution.
Resolution on page 17, a resolution to approve a grant application to the state for the Power Art exclamation point project.
And we'll ask Susan to come up and give us the spiel.
So a few years ago, the DDA, in partnership with the Arts Alliance.
Susan, we need a second on that.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So a few years ago, the DDA with the Arts Alliance as our partner looked for and found a project that would enable us to put original art into the public realm. And it takes the form of these wraps that go around signal boxes. These are the parts of downtown infrastructure that are often graffitied, often have handbills, and are generally right in your realm of view as you walk through downtown. And it was a very well received project. It's great to have artists of great skill giving us their artwork for this purpose. So last year, with the Arts Alliance help, we submitted a grant application to the state. The DDA itself also upped another additional amount of money. And I believe, I'm going to have Deb correct me, I think we had a total of 42 boxes. I think we were about 2/3 done with what we were able to do last year. With the Arts Alliance's help, we have submitted a grant application to the state in search of some additional public funding. And we have a pretty good feeling we have a good shot at it. But that submittal had to go in last week. It does require board support for that submittal. So that's what we're asking you to do today. If you have specific questions about the remaining boxes or some of the process, Deb is able to answer questions. But again, what we need is your support for what we've already submitted, which is a request if there's additional funds for another round of signal boxes.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Questions for Deb? Sorry, Deb, it looks like we have no questions for you.
No, that's great. Thank you.
All those,
Appreciate the support.
of course. All those in favor of the resolution to approve a grant application to the state for the Power Art exclamation point project, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, resolution passes. Kick it back to myself. The Finance Committee reviewed the monthly expense registers as they usually do. Nothing was out of sorts. We also had a grant update for the 618 South Main Street project. The County Brownfield Coordinator, Nathan Voigt, was in attendance to give us an update about the project, starting with info about the county's role in managing brownfield grants. If there are any specific questions on that, we'll have to ask someone to jump in and talk about that. project developers have submitted receipts for approximately $300K in eligible expenses, and there are more receipts to come. The developer is contesting the tax bill, but even if that goes through, the project will generate as much TIF as we initially had estimated. The project was completed later than expected, so the grant amount in the in fiscal year 17 for the budget was the amount anticipated for the second year, not the first year, so we're basically behind a year. The committee agreed with staff recommendation that we use the amount in this year's budget and adjust future grant payouts as needed. And that's the update from that. Is there anything that I've missed or any questions specifically on that? If so, I'll kick it over to Joe. He's been sitting quietly the whole time. No? Okay. And in terms of future projects, the project schedule that we already voted on and passed was kicked over to finance and reviewed and supported. So I think it's good there. Next finance committee meeting, Tuesday, June 27th at 1 p.m. And now I'll kick it over to Al.
Hey, Rishi, can I ask Joe a question on the 618?
Absolutely.
I know you want to answer your question. Yes. Rishi mentioned that they are contesting their tax bill, yet they're simultaneously asking us to pay out installment on a grant.
Okay.
Is there any provision in our grant agreement about withholding money while they're contesting?
Well, what we showed was that even if they won their question, it would cover our grant.
Are they at the city level or the state level with contesting right now?
I think they're at the city level.
State.
No, they're at the state level. No, we didn't have a provision in our resolution about this. They've been making tax payments. So what we do have is we only give a grant after we've received the amount.
They're paying, but they're contesting it. Hoping to get refund.
Yeah, and the differential, the estimation we received from them when they made the grant request was the DDA would receive $250,000 a year. Their evaluation is much greater than that, and if they were to win, it would come down to $270. So it's still above our grant calculation, $20,000 a year over, even if they won.
No, I got that part. I guess my point is that we're having this battle with the assessor's office and the developer. Meanwhile, they're coming to us asking for money.
Yeah, it's gone past the city. It's gone past. I think it's gone to the tax tribunal of the state, and I think it's resting there. It might be actually in a circuit court at this point. But what we heard from the Brownfield administrator is, regardless of outcome, that property is already generating far in excess. We've been receiving in excess. We haven't been receiving. It is generating taxes in excess of what it had first estimated. So
I'm just. My point is that they're fighting, they're agitating, and yet we're paying them. That doesn't seem right.
I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, if there is direction from the board that we can get back to us, at minimum, though it meets all the requirements we set forward with the grant, I think we should definitely revisit our Brownfield grant policy, because I think what DDA member McKinnon is bringing up is there's a hole that we're finding with this that we need to take a look at. So with the permission of partnerships, we'll bring that to the partnerships meeting next week.
Great. Any other thoughts after that? Okay. Partnerships, Al?
Oh, hey.
Hey.
So partnerships had our partners meeting this month. The Ann Arbor District Library Director, Josie, was here. She let us know that the library board will hold a retreat next week to discuss possible changes to the downtown library. She also reported that they have a new CFO, and that since its expansion, the Westgate branch is the busiest branch in the system.
And is awesome.
And is awesome. Subjective.
I don't know. I think it's pretty much concrete.
That's objectively awesome. Planning Commission also recently held a retreat. One outcome is a goal to consolidate the master plan to make it a more workable document. They will also look at parking requirements under zoning, and they will invite the DDA, that's us, to provide input. The DDA, that's us, shared updates regarding the Southview, 5th, and Detroit and Huron projects, and we told everybody about our upcoming retreat. The DDA, that's us. That's the name of the retreat. The DDA, comma, that's us. Next Partnerships Committee meeting is DDA only, and it will be Wednesday, the next June 14th at 9 in the morning.
Great.
That is the end of my report.
Thank you, Al. Executive Committee, we met, as we always do, prior to this meeting at 11 o'clock. We spent a good deal of time discussing about how Al shouldn't enjoy beer while he's cycling. Sorry, I digress.
And I disagree.
It was a good deal of time, actually. And then we went over the schedule for today and the agenda, and went through the different resolutions a little bit, but nothing major happened at executive. It's really kind of boring. So come if you like, but it's at 11 a.m. Wednesday, July 5th. My last executive committee meeting for, well, maybe it's a little bit quick, but my last board chair meeting. All right, switching into new business. There's a couple items. Susan, you're gonna go
Yeah,
through?
just to get them into the public record. So Friday, June 23rd, 9 a.m., the board of the DDA will meet and have a retreat at the downtown library. And the focus of this retreat will be talking about parking, as was mentioned. Among the questions will be adding or not additional parking downtown, as well as other parking issues. We'll be getting materials out to the board a few days before, just to get you thinking about what we're going to talk about. Also, coming up at our July meeting, for those of us that are new, by our bylaws, we hold an annual meeting at our July meeting. It's a separate meeting, so you'll end the board meeting, you go to an annual meeting. What we do at that is you appoint your officers for the coming year, and you reappoint your committees. You decide on which committees you're going to have. So it's a very short additional meeting, just so stick around for that. And then last, by our approved meeting schedule, we will not be holding a board meeting in August. So we may, depending on how the committee chairs feel, we may be canceling some of the summer committee meetings. Just there will be a board meeting to work toward with getting things done. So just make sure you have that on your calendars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Say, Susan, before you sit down, quick question. The city has an anti-idling ordinance going into effect July 1st, I believe. And I just wanted to check in with you to see how things may have gone with getting the word out. I see we may have some help here in the room. I did hear an interview with Matt Nod on EMU and so forth. So can you give us an update on where things are and getting the word out?
Well, I have just a small amount of information, and I don't know that it's full. Matt Nod, who's the city's environmental coordinator, reached out to all the associations. He's given a presentation to Main Street, and he may have with some of the others as well, sharing information about it. What the plan is, at least initially, though it is possible for the city to enforce as of July 1, is to use the next year as a chance to inform the delivery folks, the businesses, and so with our assistance, we've offered up to help if there's a need for signage. Could we work with the associations to figure out what locations there are likely to be trucks that are idling, or locations where school buses are idling? Where can we get information out into the public realm so that people know about it? We had an idea about putting a magnetized sign, for instance, on back doors, so as deliveries are happening. So we're still accumulating those ideas, and we'll work in support of the city and trying to get the word out. So I wish I had more detail than that.
Is that something we could get updates on, maybe through the Partnerships Committee or somehow, just to sort of understand what's happening? I know that's why I actually came up with the idea of putting signs on the doors for delivery. So it'd be great if we could have some forum to get the feedback of how things are coming along.
Absolutely. So why don't we use partnerships if the committee is open to it? We'll get updates, and as things are happening, we'll share it through that, and then the committee can share it with the full board.
What is the official amount of time in which you have to turn your car?
Oh boy, you're testing me. I think it's
Oh.
5 minutes.
Oh, you have 5 minutes? Oh, that's a lot of time.
Yeah. The,
5 minutes from when?
It's very strict here, Deb. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah, I think it'll be important to clarify some of those points to the business owners.
This is a
you know.
city ordinance, right?
It is a city ordinance.
Yeah. So we haven't had city council at partnerships in
last couple
the
of
last couple meetings, so a few months.
Yeah, the challenge with the amount is you need someone there to document that you turned, you left the truck 5 minutes ago and it's still running. So it's meant to be as clear as it can be. You don't need to run your truck any longer. The diesel engines of the past that were left running because of the difficulty in restarting them, that technology change was done decades ago. And this is really more, you just don't need to run it at all. You can turn it off, do your deliveries and come back again. So that's part of what this is about, is this is why you're doing it, the air quality and so forth, but also you don't need to be doing it. So.
And part of the reason I bring it up so strongly is the fact that, between the noise, the smell, the inconvenience, it can be pretty annoying. And as we have more and more residences downtown, early morning trucks running and so forth, it's something that I think is worth pursuing. I've actually talked to some drivers and asked them politely, and people are usually more than happy and willing, if you just ask them, turn it off, will you? But obviously, with the ordinance in place, it puts us in a little better position. And I'm hoping through businesses downtown, restaurateurs especially, maybe because of all the deliveries, to get the words out to the delivery companies, Frog Holler and all the rest. That it's a, I don't see it as so much an enforcement thing. It's just an educational thing, and just trying to change the culture as much as anything.
Well, having the ordinance, and to Howard's often point, having an ordinance allows people to to enforce without being a jerk. So I can actually do somebody a favor by saying, hey, you know what? You can get a ticket for that.
Yeah.
And then I'm being nice to them instead of saying, hey, can you turn your car off?
Truck stinks.
Yeah, I use that when people park poorly in my neighborhood all the time. I'm like, hey, you can get a ticket for that. And they're like, oh, thank you. When actually what I want to say is, you're parking terrible, move your car, I hate you. But I get to be a nice guy.
So obviously, we're taking it to the right committee.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
To get the word out.
I know, Al.
While I'm at the podium, if you wouldn't mind, I've got just a couple other new business items. The first is, at the budget approval process at the council table, there was a discussion about solar panels. Well, previous to that, the city administrator and I had talked about what it would look like to put solar on top of the garages. We are underway with a study. I don't have an update for you. We're working with our energy engineer, Dave Conkle, who used to be the city's energy engineer. And we're amassing his information. What would it look like? How much would it cost? How much electricity would we generate? How would this look in the garage in terms of how much of the equipment, the EV units, the elevators, how much of that electricity could we compensate for with these panels? And we've also asked him for two other things, which would include, would we be able to accomplish more by just putting panels on other city buildings? What would that cost look like? And then finally, what is the potential connection between solar panels and EV, meaning electric car vehicle chargers on the street? So I'm hopeful that we're going to get that report fairly soon. It took some detailed information like electric bills for the last year and engineering designs for garages and so forth, but I think the study's underway. The other thing that's underway is a project that staff are working on to bring to ops, which will come to this board, which already got some press coverage, which is looking to address suicide prevention on top of the garages. What we have been working with is within the industry, there hasn't really been clear direction on what to do. It is not that common, and yet when it happens, it's pretty striking. So last year, the parking industry came out with a white paper that in essence found things like signage is great, but fencing is probably your best bet. So with that, we've had Carl Walker researching how fencing has looked on the top of other garages, because it's a very visible thing. And we didn't want other patrons to feel uncomfortable. We wanted to be sure it was a design that worked but wasn't adding to a new problem. We're hopeful that we can bring to Ops Committee this month a bid for some work to be done this summer even. So we have signs up on the top of the garages with hotline information. The fencing is another layer in that. So I just wanted to get that on your radar that that'll be coming.
Seems to me that those two ideas could be combined, and you could have solar panels incorporated into your fence.
May very well be.
And have less of a deep wire than even those curved fences have.
The challenge is enough surface area. So the garages, interestingly, are not necessarily easy targets because so much of it you need the car to be using. So whether it's drive lane or where they're parking. And so much of that real estate isn't necessarily where even the fencing is going to give you a lot of real estate to put the solar on. But Mr. Conkle is aware of the fencing project and may very well weave in it.
Susan, along those lines, you know, obviously a parking structure is not an ideal building to put solar on because it doesn't have a roof. You know, a lot of people don't realize that or think about that, so it takes a lot of structure to put them on the roof. But is it also being examined of what can be done on the south face of the structures that have a south face exposure?
I don't know that he's looking at it because I think that the question came as panels, but I'll relay that's an excellent question.
Yeah, yeah. Because we'll end up spending more just for the structure to support them than we will for the actual collectors. If we try
That was
to put
the
them
point
on
that he
roof.
made.
But at least if it's a south face of some of the structures, that might be an easier target.
And the advantage, though, if there's any, to the expenditure for those sheds is it makes the top floor of the garage attractive because now it's got a shaded carport. But it's a lot of money on the shed, relatively little toward the actual solar panel. But I'll ask that question. That's a great question.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, other audience participation. Does anyone have anything they would like to say?
Just a quick follow-up to John's question on idling ordinance. One other piece.
Maura, I think
it's
you have,
really quick.
I think you have to speak in the microphone because there are two people that need to hear you.
Sorry, I wouldn't have. Just a quick follow-up to your idling ordinance question. Matt Knott is also going to be getting an informational sheet to all the associations to distribute to businesses for them to then distribute to their delivery people and whoever else they think would be interested.
So was he able to come to one of your meetings?
Yeah, he spoke at our May meeting.
Good.
Yeah, it was great.
Sure.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi there.
Jim Mogensen. Brief comment about the idling ordinance. On the information that went out from the city website, it wasn't clear where the areas are where that's enforceable. You know, there wasn't a map or anything. It's just kind of vague in terms of where that's. So somehow we need to know where there are. The assumption is it's downtown, but there's other places we just need to know where that is. The main reason here is it's now public retreat season. All the various public entities are starting to have their retreats and coordinating and do things. And as I've been looking at what's been happening, there's always this issue about you have the federal government and the state government, and then you have the county and the city, and then we have all these little specialized public entities. The Downtown Development Authority, the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority, right? The library, the school system, right? And the University of Michigan. The University of Michigan gets some benefits from being a public university. But sometimes, there's an old joke about college students. How many college students does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is one. They hold the light bulb and the rest of the world revolves around it. And sometimes that gets transferred to sort of an institutional narcissism kind of situation where they have these benefits of being a public entity, but sometimes lose track of the responsibilities that come with being a public entity. And we all kind of understand they do a lot of growth. They don't have to pay any taxes. The reason that's the case is usually with public entities, it doesn't make any sense to have other public entities raising taxes to give other public entities those taxes. But as some of the institutions are modified, how much of the University of Michigan is now public and how much of it is private, and it gets kind of murky in terms of that. It's making a difference in the city of Ann Arbor, in our area. The underinvestment in some of those public things as we're doing both growth and work. And I think it's important to think through how to allocate that money when you talk about how much money are we giving, how much money is the DDA giving to them, the city? And the question is, how do we make the public systems that we have in our community actually operate well? One time I was at a University of Regents meeting, and we were talking about the infrastructure relating to wastewater treatment. And I was once asked to be part of a focus group on my public values relating to wastewater treatment. And even I was stumped. I can say a lot of things about a lot of stuff, but I mean, I just couldn't do it. Right? The whole idea, my public value is that the wastewater treatment plant should work. I was at a work session where they were discussing it, so I knew what they were trying to parse out. But the reality is it needs to work. And the same thing relates. So if the university builds a lot of things, the systems have to work. If we have downtown development, we need to be able to fund those public wastewater and water systems to make them work. So as you're thinking through that, and then you're going to talk about parking, right? How you allocate that parking, there are times when I do things at where I live now, at the house, where it'd be nice to say, I'd like to recover a little bit of that tax money so I can work on getting the sidewalk to work better, because it seems to flood, right? I don't get to do that. If you're a downtown business, you do. You get a little brownfield money back. You get a little housing money back. You get it right there. You don't get to do that if you're a public citizen, and it's going to create problems in our public sphere if we're not thinking through how to allocate that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that would like to participate, make a comment? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion for adjournment? Keith, can I get a second?